Three new kiwifruit cultivars have been released to growers by Zespri. One is a green and two are gold varieties. Each variety has its own post-harvest handling requirements to maximise the shelf life for the retailer and the eating experience for the consumer. Plant and food researchers Alan Wolfe explains.
Zespri released three new cultivars, two golds, gold 3 and gold 9, and green 14. And what we're wanting to do is to deliver a high quality fruit to the consumer. You need to have all the protocols, all the steps in place to deliver that fruit. Not just in New Zealand, obviously. Most important thing is to deliver it to an international market, and many of those places are many, many weeks away from New Zealand. So there's two main areas that we're looking at here. One of them is coming up with what are the optimum harvest conditions, what's the maturity, how long do they store for, are there ways of making them store for significantly longer, for example using controlled atmosphere storage, which is where you reduce the oxygen content and increase the CO2 and sort of put them to sleep. Those are important if we're going to deliver to distant markets. So this is green 14, the sweet green, and you'll see that internally it doesn't look too much different probably from what you'd expect out of a green kiwi fruit. But if you taste it, you'll see that this is just so much sweeter. You've got Haywood or green kiwi fruit at one end, which is your more green flavours, your more acidic, less sweet. And then at the other end we've got gold, which is much more tropical flavours. We've got the much deeper gold, generally deeper gold colour inside. And in between that are the new cultivars. You can see here this is the Sun Gold, one of the new gold selections, and you'll see the internal colour is a lot paler than the traditional gold, Hort 16A. Also, as is obvious, it doesn't have a beak being the what we call this part here, the beak, and so that does differentiate it from gold. But its skin is pretty similar to the normal gold in that it's smooth, it's not very hairy. This is a little bit more acidic than Hort 16A, so again it depends on the consumer. In terms of differences in post-harvest handling, one of the challenges always has been with gold has been this beak, that it's very easy for fruit during packing to damage the fruit like this, and then this fruit obviously will rot. As meant, however, for example, for the engineering companies, a lot more development of really high-tech bin tipping systems that give less damage. So, but that has been overcome, and yes, if we go to these fruit, then we don't have to worry about that so much easier to handle. Aside from measuring things like fruit quality, the firmness and soluble solids, other things that we need to understand is about fruit physiology. So one of those things is respiration rate, which is the fruit's rate of breathing. And so what you can do here is either we can put individual fruit in pots and seal them up and measure how much CO2 they produce, which is a measure of respiration rate, or here we've got some groovy system where we can leave them sealed in these containers, and the computer next door comes through, sucks the gas out and measures the amount of ethylene, CO2 that's being produced by the fruit. And so these are important fundamental things to understand if we're going to be able to store these fruit long term. So we need to understand how that changes over time with maturity and storage and between the different cultivars. So there's a strong link between post-harvest people who understand the ripening and how to get fruit to the right stage of ripeness, and then you've got to confidently put fruit in front of these people that's at the same stage of firmness, the right stage of firmness, the right stage of sweetness, and then you're starting to compare how the consumers respond to that. On the other side of the booths, you'll see here we've got lights that are green, and part of the reason for that is that then the consumer isn't being influenced by the colour of the flesh, so they're not thinking, oh, it's darker gold, it's probably sweeter. Their taste buds have got to tell them what's happening, not their eyes and all the other things that go on with their brain. And then they're talking about how much they like the fruit. Do they like it a lot or less? Is it acceptable? Because acceptability is slightly different. And then is there something about it they don't like? Is it too sweet? Is it too sour? Is it too firm? Obviously we're feeding different firmness, so you're wanting to ask some of those things. Or does, for example, the core in the centre, is that too hard? And that's one of the issues that we've been looking at with the new cultivars and re-examining is what core firmness. Sometimes it can be quite hard. Is that an issue with the consumer, or do they not mind?
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.